Hi, welcome to KiwaniTalk. We're a public information program put together by people from the Dearborn Kiwanis Club with help from students and some of the faculty at Dearborn High School, my alma mater. My name is Gary Gardner. I have another alum with me tonight talking about Dearborn and from a different kind of, great perspective because we have a city council person, Leslie Herrick from the Dearborn City Council. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Gary. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Well, I was here much way before you were here. I was here when the Earth's crust was just finished getting cooled, and you were here much after me, I'm sure, for that. But tell us, you grew up in Dearborn?
I did, just a few blocks actually from where we're filming today. We're in the studio at Dearborn High School, and we were just talking about how we're both alma maters of Dearborn High. So I grew up about a mile from here, was born at Oakwood Hospital, now Beaumont, and came back after being away for a few years and decided to come here, buy a home, and raise my son here. Okay. And that's Brendan, and he just graduated from Dearborn High this last year, so very proud of him.
The tradition continues.
It does, it does.
So you weren't always a city council person. You've had other careers too. How did you get into whatever it was that you were doing?
Well, having grown up here and been involved in the community as a volunteer, as a youth, through scouting and different things with my family and through school, I developed very deep roots here. A lot of friends, a lot of family, and through the years I decided, the short story is, I always wanted to work at our beautiful historic Dearborn City Hall down at Schaefer, Michigan Avenue. My first job was working for the Recreation Department. I worked on light crew and some of the special events here in Dearborn, one of the very first homecoming festivals, and just always loved our city and the things that our city offered to the residents who lived here. Loved being part of the Dearborn Public Schools as a student, and I wanted to bring my son back here to raise him, as I mentioned. But I started working for the Recreation Department all those years ago, had a career in public relations and marketing, and then I heard about an opportunity opening up in the communications office here at the old City Hall. And so I took a leap of faith, left a full-time job to work for a part-time job in communications here for the city. And as one of my friends said, I kind of cobbled together jobs for myself that kept me here in Dearborn. I worked for, those first years, I started in 2009 with the Department of Public Information and was hired to work on two special projects. One was we were hosting the Michigan Municipal League Convention, which is a statewide convention for city leaders. And in 2010, Dearborn was hosting it. And also I was liaison to the Census Bureau in 2009 for the 2010 census, doing events, working with other community partners to encourage people to answer the questions when the census form came to their house on how important it was that we count everybody so that we can continue to get federal funding for important projects that benefit our residents, and to ensure that we have fair representation with our elected officials at the federal level. And so interestingly, we are celebrating a 10th anniversary of that. The census is coming up in a few months. People will be getting their forms. So I'm a big advocate of that as a volunteer now. But the job with the city and public information led me to working for the Census Bureau as my other part-time job, and then the Dearborn Community Fund. So all those jobs kind of came together in me supporting the city and volunteering and professional, and people asked me to run for city council because they saw how passionate I was about getting things done to move our city forward and give people good opportunities here.
Was that your first time running for office?
Yes, it was.
Had you been involved in campaigns before that?
I had.
So you have an idea,
yeah.
But until you're the actual candidate, it changes, doesn't it?
It does. You have to be able to talk about yourself comfortably when a lot of us would rather talk about somebody else's virtues. And you have to have a tough skin. I had friends who said they wouldn't do it because they felt they didn't have a tough enough skin, and you do have to have a tough skin, and you have to realize that no matter how hard you work, you can't please everybody, and that's hard because I want everybody to love the city as much as I do and enjoy working here or living here or raising their family here as much as I have. And people have different priorities in their lives. And so it's hard to not know that you can't make everybody happy all the time.
And city council doesn't pay a whole lot. You
No, it
need
doesn't.
another job to help supplement that.
Usually, yeah.
And the time that people see when the council meetings are on TV, that's only a small portion of the time that's involved, I think, in preparing for the meetings, outside study. Talk about that unknown, unseen component.
Yeah, the city council meets usually twice a month on a Tuesday, and so people see that. We have a cable show that you can look at any time now on demand through your computer. And people don't often realize, as you said, what goes into leading up to that meeting, because most of the issues that you see us voting on or discussing at our city council meetings, we've already had one or more, sometimes many more meetings to discuss those issues. So when you see us voting yes or no on something, and especially when you see us voting on something that might cost millions of tax dollars, we've had very deep discussions and asked lots of questions leading up. It's not something that you might see us quickly voting on it, but we've spent a lot of time on it. The Thursday before the council meeting is the committee of the whole meeting, and all the department heads are represented at that meeting. City council sits in their seats. It's not televised, but like all public meetings, it's open to the public. And they are on the city calendar if you have the printed city calendar, or if you go online and look at the city calendar. People are welcome to come to that meeting on the Thursday before the council meeting and ask us questions, just like during the council meeting. At the end, we always invite the public to get up and ask a question or make a statement regarding city business, and we welcome that input. And that's one of the things that I've tried to talk to people about is to kind of what's behind the curtain, because people don't necessarily realize the opportunities they have to give public input.
And hopefully, and I believe that you would, but do you actually pay attention to the citizens who come to the meetings or the meetings of the committee of the whole, or call you on the phone and say, hey,
Oh, you bet. People are welcome to email us. I give my phone number out regularly to people, asking them, text me, call me if you have a concern. Stop by the council office, call the council office. Our staff is extremely responsive and well-versed in the issues and the matters that are in the city, or even if you just, you don't know who to call because you want to make a positive change in your neighborhood or you have a concern of some sort. The council members or our staff are happy to help direct you to the right department in the city to answer those questions. But sometimes it's tough. Sometimes we have to take up a battle on behalf of residents when it comes to things like, answering questions about when is your street going to be repaved and explaining the process and how that is, and trying to get emergency measures taken if there's, say, a pothole that's particularly dangerous, that kind of thing. We might work with our own city resources, or we might end up calling the county if it's a county road or a state road, if it's a dangerous situation, or if there's a light pole down, for example, that has been neglected to be dealt with, that kind of thing.
You mentioned before that you deal with contracts for millions of dollars.
We do.
Actually, the city of Dearborn, if it was a business, would be a pretty good-sized business. What's the total budget that comes through, and how many employees does the city have?
We have over 800 employees. A lot of those are part-timers or seasonal. Our largest department is the recreation department, and so in the summertime we have more people working for recreation because of the wonderful resources that we offer, our parks and our pools and Camp Dearborn, so that's all seasonal staff. And then, of course, we have a lot of full-time staff members. The fire department has around 150 full-time firefighters who are working, obviously, 24/7 to make sure our city is safe. And the police department also has a couple of hundred police officers who are working round the clock. So those are a couple of our biggest full-time employee departments.
Public Works Department. And
Public Works, again, 24/7. Some of the staff are 24/7. Some are just days. You see them around town in the trucks.
Right.
And the equipment in the trucks, those are some of the things that we regularly have to buy new resources, spend resources to buy new trucks. And those are big ticket items. So, yeah, we're looking, over $125 million that we're dealing with on an annual basis with paying for those things.
That would be a big company in anybody's book. And so, and the responsibility rests on the council and the mayor's office, administrative people behind the scenes, all those type of things.
Yes.
And one of the things that you mentioned before, you always wanted to work at the wonderful city hall structure at Michigan and Schaefer.
I did.
But your plans were thwarted, right?
Well, not exactly. I started there in 2009, and I had a short-term plan. It was a part-time job, so I said, I'll stay here 2 years and see what happens, because, but then I ended up cobbling together these jobs with, where I was able to work full-time, but was part-time jobs put together. The city did sell the historic city hall, but it was just as I had left to go work for the Dearborn Public Schools to do communications in the office of the superintendent there. So I left just after they sold the city hall to make it be, they sold it to Art Space, which is a nonprofit organization. And so now the office that I used to work in the third floor on the east building of City Hall, as well as the other building, both buildings are 52 apartment units for artists who make that their living and workspace. And it's a really neat endeavor. Art Space does a really good job at repurposing old buildings that are underutilized or need revitalization. And they were able to get grant money and donations to do some renovations that the city wouldn't have otherwise had access to do for retrofitting, putting in new heating and cooling, that kind of thing, that were really big ticket items that needed to be redone at that old building. It's a controversial issue. I don't know if I was a voting member and if I had been on council at the time, what action I might have taken regarding giving up that jewel of the old city hall.
But it was awkward to get around.
It was hard to find your way around. If you needed to go to the clerk's office, that was in the connector space, we call it. But if you needed a permit and went in the wrong door, you had to wind your way to find, and it wasn't well marked and kind of cobbled together the way that you'd find your way to get to do the business you needed to do.
The new administrative center is a whole state-of-the-art type of place, and it really works pretty efficiently.
It certainly is, and it's a much more modern building, and when it comes to technology, it works. It's much more efficient when we use the resources that are in that building. I, as a resident, before I was elected to council, I certainly appreciated that welcome desk in the new building, because it's a one-stop shop. You just walk in where it says entrance, and there's somebody there to greet you. They ask what business you have and who you need to talk to, and from there they direct you right to the right person, and you don't even have to leave that main welcome area
and if you're
in
going
most
to
cases.
the one office, to put your name in the queue for that.
Yep.
And like you can see your name in the queue, see where you are, the whole thing. It all works out pretty good.
It does. So as far as customer experience goes, I think the new building is a much more user-friendly building.
But I have to agree, I like the old building because it was a classic,
It's iconic.
style-looking city hall building, and the building that the city hall is in now is just, it's a building.
Yeah, it's more of a typical office building.
Right.
For those who want to visit the old city hall, though, they do have open houses on a regular basis. The folks that live and work and do their art there now, they have open houses and events. They're working with the Downtown Development Authority on the east side of Dearborn, and so several times a year they open their doors. So I encourage people to use Facebook to check out and maybe follow the Art Space City Hall Lofts, it's called.
Yep.
So they welcome people to come in, and not only do they have events in the connector space where there's kind of some meeting rooms, but they actually have residents there who open their apartments, so you can see how they're decorated, and it's pretty impressive. They have their art, on the main floor, but you can see how the two-story windows, you see them from the outside, but you can see from the inside how some of those apartments are designed.
Well, we're going to continue our conversation with Leslie Herrick, Dearborn City Council member. First, we have some words about Kiwanis. We'll come back and talk about a lot of other things going on in Dearborn, the building and the Ford development and the Wagner place and East and West Dearborn and all that stuff. Don't go away.
It's easy to get caught up in the details. The day-to-day grind, numb to the noise, going round and round and round. Deep down, there's something missing, a void inside, a hole to fill, a life lacking. Then, in a minute of clarity, it hits you. The aha moment. You're needed. Kids need you. Kids of all kinds. All these funny, rambunctious, sweet, attention-seeking, vulnerable bundles of energy. They need your love and support. Some have huge life hurdles. Poverty, disease, hunger. And they're reaching out for you. Around the corner, around the world. You are a Kiwanian at heart, a role model, a guide, a builder of dreams. Together, we are Kiwanis, passionate and strong, ready to move mountains or grains of sand. Imagine every child reaching their potential. The power to help is in you. It's not about us. It's about them. Do you hear the call? Kids need Kiwanis. Kiwanis needs you.
Welcome back to KiwaniTalk. I'm Gary Gardner, your host on this, the longest running cable access television show in the entire world. We're happy to be here. We're happy to have our guest today, Leslie Herrick, Dearborn City Council person, member, woman, what, I lost track.
Any and all.
Any and all those things, talking about many, many things Dearborn. There's a lot going on in Dearborn. Ford Motor Company, talk with the big elephant in the room. How many hundreds of millions of dollars is Ford putting into redeveloping their, you don't know exactly, but it's a lot.
It is. They did a couple videos that came out when they were first announcing that they were going to be rejuvenating their campus here in the heart of Dearborn. And I know that they've changed their plans. They're going to be doing some further public information about that later this year, because as any project goes, things evolve and change. So some of those original videos that came out it's going to be a little different than what we saw. But as you said, it's millions and millions of dollars of investment to new research and technology and building that'll go on here in Dearborn. They've made quite a commitment.
So you think Ford's here for the long haul?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And
that's not telling any secrets, right?
No, and as all of us know, if you drive down Michigan Avenue, you see Wagner Place.
Yeah, that's Wagner Place. And people see it. We don't know the name of it, but it's right on Michigan Avenue. Tell me exactly where it is. But
they're between Oakwood and, Military is the one that comes to mind, but it's not that far. It's the first couple blocks west of Oakwood, and we've got Wagner Place east and west, and those it's kind of a strip there, and on the lower level we see retail shops and restaurants that are going in, have gone in. And then the upstairs, Ford has office space up there. One of the neatest things is looking at the old Wagner Hotel, which is, it's got the turret on it, and upstairs, passersby might have seen or might have attended an event on the roof of the old Wagner Hotel.
You know, my wife saw someone up there, and she was wondering, how do they get up there?
Yeah, well, you have to be invited, pretty much.
Well, that cuts us up.
So the employees can take breaks or have special events out there. There's the rooftop. They've got some seating areas and things up there, and so they can go outdoors and have meetings. kind of innovative thinking when it comes to how they repurpose that old hotel. Last summer, we had a wonderful event celebrating Dearborn's 90th birthday, and it was a fundraiser for our beautiful historical museum. And it was 1920s theme, lots of fun, and it was the first time that many people got to see some of the renovations of the hotel and things that how they repurposed old doors and kind of made some of the workspace. They left some of the old hotel rooms, which were very small when that place was built, but that's workspace for the employees up there. So it's
And there's restaurants coming in
gem.
too. I haven't been there, but you were just saying you were at the Longboard, or?
The Longboard opened just before the holidays, and it's a Jolly Pumpkin restaurant, so people who might have been at Jolly Pumpkin in Ann Arbor or out in Royal Oak, a lot of people were very excited about the addition of that restaurant in particular. And what the owners decided to do was make it a little bit different, and so it's a Polynesian theme. And so it's called the Longboard. And so they serve all the Jolly Pumpkins craft brews that people have come to know. And their menu is delicious. They've got some signature dishes. And their chicken sandwich is halal, which is of interest to a lot of people here in Dearborn. But they also have wood-fired pizzas and just a wonderful menu there. So I'm excited and I know a lot of my friends were too, about them opening. So Longboard is open. Eleanor's Cafe just opened in the last couple weeks. And Eleanor actually is a Ford family member from way back at the turn of the last century in the 1900s. And so that's a nice place to stop and have some coffee that's roasted just for Eleanor's Cafe.
And then there's the East and West Dearborn Development Authorities. There's the Warren Avenue Development
A
area.
lot going on with our DDAs, East and West Dearborn. And at the south end, the Verner Dix corridor, Warren Avenue corridor, we have it's called tax recapture money from the business taxes that are paid, and that's reinvested in signage, wayfinding signage and things to make people feel welcome and comfortable, make the streets more walkable, bikeable, things like that. So our DDA has done a terrific job.
One of the premier tourist attractions in the entire country is here in Dearborn too.
It is. And we hope that those people, when they come to visit the
Henry
Henry
Ford.
Ford and the museum or take the tour at the Rouge plant, that then they visit some of our downtowns, do some shopping, do some dining. There's a lot going on when it comes
So
to
are you a city
attracting.
council person? Or are you like the premier cheerleader for the city of Dearborn?
Well, I've been doing it for a while. That's why I ran for city council.
So back to the council. How is Dearborn doing? How is the budget? How is the economic times doing? Where are we in that area?
We're in very solid times right now. We've been able to buy a lot of, we were talking about police cars and fire trucks, things, ambulances. We've got new ambulances. So we've been able to do that with the funds that have come in the last couple of years with our taxes. We're in a good place right now, but we also always have to think about the future and being cautious, and that we're not overspending and that we're balancing our budget and spending money on the things that are the most important to the people who live and work here. So we're doing very well right now. And you know what, I got to say, working with the people who are on our council right now, Susan DeBaja is the council president, Mike Serini is the pro tem. I sit next to Bob Abraham, who we fondly refer to as the dean of the council. He's been on the council the longest. And then rounding that out, Brian O'Donnell and Aaron Burns, who, like me, has only been on council for 2 years. We're the newest members. We work really well together. And it's just a privilege serving with them, and that I can go to them and, like, again, I sit next to Bob, being able to ask him, the history of, how did it come to be that we do certain things certain ways, and it's a privilege to work with a group that works so well together.
That's institutional knowledge
It
and
is.
memory that's
It
there.
is.
And
It's very important.
So you have the council, and there's elections, not 2020, but 2021. So
That's right.
you have a 4-year term. There's no term limits. And
That's correct.
When the legislature in Michigan came up with term limits, I thought that's probably a good idea. But the more I look at it, it takes a couple of years just to figure out where the bathrooms are up in Lansing. And,
Yep.
But there's, like you said, with Bob Abraham being there for a significant time,
Yep.
that knowledge and that's really important.
Yeah, as you said, institutional knowledge. I personally think our state representative terms are 2 years, and I think that's too short. I don't know who came up with that bright idea, because, as you said, just getting to know where the bathrooms are and how things are done. In Lansing, they really count on the staff there, because the staff stays even when, term limited, 3 terms, 2-year terms is our state rep.
6 years and you're done.
6 years and you're
unless
done.
you go for state senate, yeah.
And often they do run for state senate, so they at least have that experience. But I think 2 years is too short a term.
So then you've been on the council now for 2.5 years or so. Or
Not
3
even
years,
2.5, yeah, it's 2 years this month,
So,
yeah.
You thinking about doing it again?
I am,
Okay.
yeah. I am honored to have this opportunity to serve our residents. I appreciate those who contact me, if I hear somebody has a situation where they need a hand, I'm glad to reach out to them if I hear about it, because talk about institutional knowledge, as you just said, when you know how to help somebody or how to help them find their way, I'm happy to be able to do that, because that's making a positive difference in other people's lives.
So we're going through good times now.
We are,
And there's
yeah.
hopefully for the future to be continued. Where does Leslie see Dearborn in 5 and 10 years down the road? Where are we headed? Have you got a long-term plan for the city, hopefully?
The city has plans in place, and this is one of the things when you're talking about learning, in your first couple of years, and we're always learning, right? But one of the things is when you look at the zoning maps for Dearborn, and this is kind of geek talk for people who are really into the city if you want to pull up a zoning map. But long-term plans, there are places in the city where we're looking at where there used to be housing, and as people move away or houses get dilapidated and things, we don't want to be in the business of buying homes, but we do rezone to make things commercial property, for example, or industrial property. And if you look at the long-term maps from what's right now, we plan for that for the future. Where are people going to need certain resources as far as housing and where streets? We have street plans that go out 20 years, and further as to what streets are going to need to be redone or widened, that kind of thing.
And your feeling for Dearborn?
Oh, we're in good shape.
2 thumbs up?
Oh, yeah. Our neighborhoods, we have some gorgeous, beautiful neighborhoods. And I'd like to see a little more housing when we're talking about loft and rental and space for people getting their first places that they're going to live and attracting people to work here at Ford Motor Company and other employers. So we need a little bit more first home rental space when it comes to lofts in downtown. People want that kind of living, walkable communities, public transportation. Those are all things we're working on with the county and with the state, and those are some of the long-term plans.
Sounds like you've got a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
Have you back soon, but we're out of time.
Thank you
right now.
so
I wanna
much
thank you
for
so
the
much for coming
opportunity
on.
to
It was
talk
great
with
to
you.
see you here. Great to see you on KiwaniTalk. Take a look at the city council. Don't just look at the council meeting. Go to the meeting of the whole, and call them up and say, listen, I like what you're doing, or maybe not.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. See you next time on KiwaniTalk. Bye-bye.